But understandably, since you have ILM and you have Lucasfilm and you have all these advances in special effects technology, you can do all of the things that have been in your head that you couldn't do before, you want to put them on screen. And that has kind of led to special effects supplanting story, kind of masking as story. I believe, just on the basis of the trailer alone, that Terminator 4 suffered from special effectitis. It was more of a special effects movie than it was a movie that had a story to tell. Because the story should be so compact that the special effects are incidental. As I'm writing here, I mean, it really does seem like I'm using a lot of special effects. I'm just writing them in. They happen because this is the world that they're in, and this is the only way that you can do this story is to have special effects. Endo's walking around, Endo's skull's splayed open. But in many ways, if you really look at the scripts, if you get past those critical moments, this is all very much character. Hopefully told in a very exciting way. Sure, sometimes there are some very heavy exposition scenes. Some of that is because in the back of my head, even though I've thrown the budget out the window, as I've said thousands of times before, it's still in the back of my head that this is a TV show, ostensibly, and I need to cut back on the special effects. I've blown so much special effects in the first few episodes, I need some talking. And that was part of the reason for episode 9. But also we get other stuff, like how the after effects of Allison after having been kidnapped by Buttercup. She does have some physical impairment from being tightly held in a ball for so long, for so many hours, that causes nerve damage and joint damage and muscle damage and damage. And some of that she may not recover from. Though I'd like to think that she's going to recover from most of it, at least so that it isn't a handicap in any significant way. You slowly are seeing Derek becoming increasingly annoyed with John Connor. Not by anything that John is really doing per se. I mean, no more than anybody else. But almost the fact of him. He can sense that John has something that he doesn't. And he hasn't been able to reconcile that. I don't think he's even been able to recognize it yet. Not like Kyle has. Kyle has obviously noticed that John is a leader, as opposed to somebody who's in charge. John is a leader. But Kyle is also very loyal. He believes in his family. I mean, from what we heard before in season 2, Derek really protected Kyle and really helped raise him. And so there's really no surprise that Kyle is going to be very tight with his brother. And of course I'm looking down because my notes are here. I only have 5 lines of notes. Let's see if I can keep this going. I mean, I've already talked for, 15 or 20 minutes, so we'll see. But this episode, on the surface of it, seems almost like a throwaway episode, but it isn't. So many things have been going on. No scene was wasted. No dialogue was wasted. I didn't throw anything away. Everything matters. And in many ways, for me, it was a hard script to write because it was a very technical script. Not so much that I was following a writing formula or anything like that. It was technical in that I was having to make sure that the story I was trying to tell, all of the threads, all of the continuity, all of that was holding true. I mean, the most obvious case was Ellison dying. I was having to keep going back to the previous scripts that take place after this in Sarah's world and see if I made any mention at all of Ellison. Because if I had, I'd have to maybe not have Ellison die. But I didn't. So, because I had anticipated Ellison dying. I wasn't sure which episode I was going to write it in, but I knew when it was going to happen in their timeline. And I am happy that I was conscientious enough to help me out and not break that continuity thread. One of the things that has been helping me a lot as a tool for writing these episodes is one that you probably wouldn't have thought of straight off. And that is Google Earth. Google Earth is, in so many ways, is almost a partner. And that's because I don't live in Southern California. I haven't lived in Southern California in decades, so I really don't know where everything is now. I mean, I've gone and retraced where things were when I was in Southern California way, way back. And some of those places aren't there anymore. They're vastly changed. There are new highways. There are new developments. It's really, really changed. So Google Earth lets me scope out the landscape. It's not just where things are. I mean, that Zira is here, or that Palmdale and Lancaster up here, or Sarah Point is up there. Serrano Point is up there. But it's like when I fought the battle in the Palisades. It allowed me to get right into the terrain that I wouldn't have known about, and see what it's like to actually look at it. Where are the mountains? Where's the high ground? And I can write to that. I know what's possible. I know how many endos I can sit in an area, how large an area they have to defend, and also how far do people have to travel? How long is it going to take? How far is it from Zira Base to the Palisades? How, whether it's a direct route, where's Century in relation to that? But what if you have to go all the way around the mountains, like John and Jason and whomever, I forget, went when they first scouted out the buildup? All of that is helped so much by Google Earth, because I can do that. The layout of Palmdale, Lancaster. When I'm in LA, Google Earth has a lot of 3D buildings, so I get to see not only the general terrain structure, but I get to see the actual building structures. What is there in our time, in 2009 through 2012, for Sarah to have to move around in? What kind of cover does she have? What buildings are around? Or in 2027, which areas are not hit by nuclear blasts, so buildings are still going to be there? Or if there were a lot of buildings there, how many are going to be in rubble, and things like that. So important when you're writing a story like this, to get the verisimilitude or the simulation of truth into your story. You can't just, off the top of your head, if you can avoid it, say, oh, it's going to be like this, because I can make it up. 2027 hasn't happened yet. And I'll confess, some of that does happen, because for storytelling reasons, you take some literary license and you write out of convenience. But if I can avoid that, so much the better. I mean, I get to find out how far things are, and then I take into account terrain, then I take into account what a nuclear war would have done to that terrain. And it makes the story so much richer. Like when I'm at Big Bear Lake, the Raptor base is here, but I know that Eagle Point, which juts out into Big Bear Lake, is over here. And I know that John can walk that. It's only about a mile away. And it all makes everything tie together, because it actually does exist. And I'm not making it up.